Hola, clase. Speaking to you from Poas Volcano in Costa Rica. Actually, I've been here. It's a pretty awesome place. So if you go to Costa Rica, make sure you visit Poas Volcano. Anyway, the purpose of today's lesson is ER verbs. Let's talk about ER verbs. If you guys remember back to AR verbs, this is going to be a pretty quick concept for you guys to grasp. Okay, let's talk about ER verbs. Now, if you remember back to the previous lesson with AR verbs, you guys learned that in Spanish, all verbs in Spanish or infinitives end in AR, ER, and IR, okay? And you learned that AR verbs like tomar, in order to conjugate them, you have to drop the AR ending and add the endings that go along with the subject, right? Let's talk about ER verbs. We are going to use comer as an example. Guess what you do in order to conjugate the verb comer? You do the exact same thing that you do with AR verbs, except it's just a little bit different. You still eliminate the ER, except, watch this, it's just a tiny bit different. Let's talk about the verb comer, to eat. My favorite thing to do. I don't know about you guys. This is my favorite thing to do. So we're going to take that ER off of comer, and for yo, we're going to add an O, same as AR verbs. For tu, we're going to add an ES. Now, ER verbs are going to have E's in them instead of A's. That's one thing that makes them different. But the concept is the same. Yo como, I eat. Tu comes, you eat. Usted, él, ella come. You eat, he eats, she eats. José come. Marta come. Nosotros, nosotras. Comemos. We eat. So the ending is emos. Ustedes, ellos, ellas. You plural, y'all. Ellos, ellas, they. Comen. You all eat. They eat. Also, you all are eating. They are eating. Remember, this is still present tense. Present tense indicates present time. It's something that you do or that you are doing. So in review, o, es, e, hemos, en are going to be the ER verb endings. Now, what about these other ER verbs that are common, that are in your lesson? Are they conjugated the exact same way as comer? Yes, they are. So deber, should or ought to, or must, same thing. Leer, correr, romper, creer or creer que, aprender, comprender. They are conjugated the same way. So if you want to say, I run, yo corro. He believes, él cree. We learn, nosotros aprendemos. And once again, you do not have to say your subject pronoun if it's understood. Aprendemos, we learn. Yo como, I eat, or simply como. And remember, deber plus infinitive. Remember that concept of verb plus infinitive? Remember that? Let's do a couple of examples of that. Let's talk about deber, should, ought to, or must. So using the verb deber in a sentence, should or ought to, how would you say I should eat? Well, yo debo, or just simply debo, right? What comes next? Do I say como, I eat, I eat? Nope. Debo comer, I should eat. Debes estudiar, you should study. Okay? So remember, the concept of verb plus infinitive, we don't touch that second verb. We leave it alone. We leave it unconjugated. Okay? We only conjugate the first verb because the first verb indicates the action. I should. And then study, you're not saying I study, you're saying I should. And then study, you just leave that alone. Debo estudiar. Okay? So, and let's take a look. Let's take a look at leer and creer, because sometimes students see these verbs and they get a little put off because you've got two E's in them. There's nothing irregular about it. Leo, and then we have leer. Lees, lee, leemos, leen. Now, the way you pronounce it is very important. Leo, lees, lee, leemos, leen. Creer is the same. To believe. Creo, crees, cree, creemos, creen. So you would use creer like this. Creo que, I believe that, la clase es interesante. I believe that the class is interesting. So we use the verb creer to express our opinion about something, okay? So that's it for ER verbs. Hopefully you guys learned something about that. Now you get to practice the common ER verbs and some exercises to help you get better with your Spanish. Hasta luego.